now let's bring in our next set of speakers, another exciting discussion, which is a design discussion on transforming workspaces one design at a time. So let me introduce our next set of speakers. The session is moderated by Arnab, Managing Director, Corporate Fitouts, India, Colliers. Mr. Ghosh, with over a decade of experience in the industry, has extensive exposure in managing various aspects of project development, including design, cost, and construction management across various asset classes. With his domain expertise, he provides project planning, coordination, and quality control throughout the project lifecycle. Erna works closely with the Indian leadership team and regional heads across all regions to achieve business goals and profitability. Mr. Ghosh, a very warm welcome to you. Let me now introduce our speakers in an alphabetical order. Our first speaker of this session, let me introduce Dr. Ananya Gandotra, Founder Director, AG Strategic Management and Engineering Solutions Private Limited. Dr. Gandotra has 30 years of experience in design and project development in India, Dubai, Nepal, and China. She works on diverse portfolio, including land development, innovative and sustainable products with global investors and marquee associates who have a keen focus on India's growth and opportunities. Previously, she worked as design head at Aditya Birla Group, Taj Hotels, DLF, and Indiabulls Real Estate Limited. In multiple organizations, she has also spearheaded regulatory clearances and compliances along with project planning and management. Our next eminent speaker, let me introduce Ms. Erna David, Project Head, Interiors, APICES Studio Private Limited. With a prestigious experience of over 12 years in spearheading multifunctional roles encompassing architecture, interior strategy and concept evolution, business and service operational excellence, general management, and continuous process improvement, Erna is a dynamic business leader who has worked with private and government sector, national and international clients across businesses on a variety of projects from mid to high-end workplaces to the modern-day data centers. Our next panel member is Ms. Fancy George, CEO, Thomas Workplace Design. With over 3 decades of experience with large-scale multinational corporate office campuses to sustainable projects that follow the philosophy of circular design in retrofit and refurbishment projects, Fancy George has always had a deep appreciation for workplaces from a people's perspective. She has been passionate about connecting and designing from an empathetic and life-centered community point of view. Our next session speaker is Gagandeep Kapila, founder and principal architect, Workshop for Metropolitan Architecture. Architect Kapila co-founded the firm Workshop for Metropolitan Architecture with a dedication to extreme design excellence and sophistication in construction technology. The lineage of this prestigious practice has witnessed over a decade of designing meticulous spaces from high-end residentials and commercial projects to boutique retail spaces. Our next eminent panel member for this session is Dr. Ponni M. Concessao, founder and principal architect, Oscar and Ponni Architects. Ponni Concessao has worked with internationally renowned architectural firms before joining her husband in 1996, ushering an era of diverse award-winning projects from educational institutions, technology parks, apartments, shopping malls to hospitality, luxury apartments and villas, townships, corporate offices, and hospitals. Currently, she is designing the prestigious Telangana State Secretariat at Hyderabad, which she won in an international design competition. Our next and final member for this session, let me introduce Ms. Sanober Garda, Senior Director, Office Leasing Services, Mumbai, Savills, India. Sanober joined Savills in 2017 and has office consulting and transaction background of nearly 12 years. In a real estate brokerage career, Sanober Garda has specialized in corporate leasing and sale. She has successfully transacted real estate deals with Indian SMEs as well as MNCs, assisting them with their relocation, expansion, consolidation plans, investments, or providing them with data and guidance to aid their real estate related decisions. So this is our eminent panel and our discussion is for 1 hour. Let me hand it over to our moderator of the session, Mr. Arnab Ghosh. Over to you.
Thank you, Sapna. Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to all the panelists. A big thank you to Realty Plus and Sapna to organize this online event. It's always good to celebrate the achievements and interact with the women leaders in our industry. I was told a very select group of, designer, architects, thought leaders, CRE professionals are part of this day-long session. And it's as a professional, I think these sessions is important because people recognize and celebrate as the achievements that we do during all the work that we put in over the last 2 decades. So the topic for the session is transforming workstations one design at a time. So just to start the session, I just want each of you to, what's the one word that comes in your mind when you think about the new workspace? If you can just look at it as an icebreaker, but what's the word which defines the new workspace today? I would start with Dr. Ananya, if you can. What's the word that come in your mind when you thought about the new workspace?
Thank you, Arnab. As always, extremely happy to be part of the Realty Plus forums. And amongst many words that come to my mind, I think one of the words that is popping up is flexible. Flexibility in various different ways, how you can, I would say, increase the manpower, or how can you reformat the spaces in various ways. And primarily because of influx of technology also. So flexibility perhaps was always there, but I think is increasing. Even in terms from a developer standpoint.
Yeah, so the word is flexible, basically.
Yeah, whether today you develop a space, tomorrow there might not be a requirement for that.
Yeah,
so
understood.
You need to be more flexible.
Yeah, Erna, for you, what's the word?
I would define it as value for time of every individual, wherein they balance their benefits.
That's 3 words, by the way.
Yes.
But yeah, value for time, yeah.
Yes, value for time, because time is important, and everybody in the hybrid circle or flexible or agile or any circle that suits their businesses has to give or has given thought over mental health of the employees, have given thought over their productivity of business, as well as their sustainability part that we are focusing these days on too. So it has always been there, but yes, my focus for today would be value for time for employees to enjoy with comfort.
Yeah. Fancy, for you?
I think it would definitely be choice. Choice of space.
Choice. Yeah.
That is, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to tell you choice, because then we can discuss it more when we start talking about it.
Correct. Gagandeep, what's the word that's in your mind? You're on mute.
I think for me, it should be a virtual collaborative environment. So so physical space is no longer a necessity. So we could, interact, communicate without being in the same meeting room. So that is
right.
Word for me.
Sanober, for you, you're also on mute.
Hi, very fine to meet all of you all. Thank you, Arnab. For me, I think it's going to be that one word. It's going to be repurposing the space. So repurpose.
Repurpose. Yeah. Dr. Ponni, if you can share your thoughts.
The word that I would recommend is, or comes to mind, is dynamic, because as a designer, as an architect, we work to different time eras. Things keep changing, fluctuating so much. So as designers, we have to be very dynamic in our thinking to accommodate the new needs of the workspace.
See, I personally have been working with quite a lot of occupiers over the last 2 decades, delivering workspaces for them. And I, as well as all of you, we have witnessed the transformation which has happened especially over the last decade. So what I feel that, we tend to always describe change as good or bad. But I don't think that really helps, right? Change, it's more important to acknowledge and accept the change, understand the reasons why the change is happening, And then maybe ensure that as professional, your services are in sync with the new ask from your clients, right? So that's what changed it to me. I think I would just refer to a quote by a famous Chinese philosopher that if you don't change direction, you may end up where you are heading. So it's important to accept change and then work around it. So let's start the round with a first question to Dr. Ananya. It's about everybody's talking about transformation happening in the workplaces. So if you can quickly tell us the top 3-4 important changes which has happened in a workspace so that it sets the context for the conversation.
Yeah, I think the context is coming also from the experience of workspaces over the last 3 to 4 years, before COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, and now perhaps bouncing back. So for me, there is a lot of learning that has evolved for not just the people who are designing spaces or clients who are actually developing spaces, meaning the people who are actually curating the assets, and the users itself. So there is like similar to home buying, I think in workspace also, design has also taken a key and a sharp focus, that people are much more aware of what space they are going in, and they are quite clear about their requirements. The other thing that comes to my mind is there was a self-sustaining activity, even for the offices which were operating, they were trying to self-sustain. So the way they look at now, like, amenities, for example, I think that is also extremely important. Like, if required, you could be self-sustained. If not, there could be certain spaces that could be common. The next in line for me has been the extreme importance of ventilation, natural light, and the well-being component of workspaces. So how do you do that? So in the kind of selection of perhaps the air con systems, the air changes, for example. So those are also things that one would take into mind when you're designing spaces where multiple people are coming in from various different locations. The third important one, which to my mind is because people did suffer a lot of losses during the COVID in the workspace, cost is becoming an important factor. So how do you design and develop spaces which will of course give you value, and which could, from a sense of perspective, through various kind of contracts, you could scale up or scale down. So cost of development and cost of sustenance and maintenance are also extremely important. The fourth point is sustainability. I think that's also a focus. Slowly and gradually, as the spaces are becoming much more compliant and the large REITs which are coming in, or overseas funds are coming in workspaces, is extremely important to look at workspaces which are more greener or more sustainable in the overall format. So I think these would be the key trends. So I would say amenities and the way we are kind of designing spaces, the cost parameter of the work per square foot, thereby the value on that, and I would say sustainability. And last and foremost is influx of IT and technology. I think there is a larger spend on IT in offices, and the kind of technology that they want to bring in various different aspects, whether it could be transportation, or whether it could be, a security, or whether it could be actual IT use within the processes or within, the infrastructure. I think that's also taking an upswing.
Yeah, these are all valid concerns now, whether it's for the occupier or the developers, and everybody's working towards it. In fact, a lot of things has already changed on the ground, whether for the developer, for, as you talked about, sustainability and ESG, that's kind of a given now for the grade A developers, because that's the only way they can, remain in in the market, right, for their user. Let me come to Erna and ask her that, before the pandemic, the one word which used to irritate me a lot is that everybody wants to have an agile workspace. A lot of occupiers used to come and say, I need my workplace to be agile. And everybody has a different interpretation of what that word means. And now after the pandemic, everybody is talking about a hybrid workspace, right? We want our design of a workspace to be hybrid. So I would ask you now to educate us or tell the audience, what is the difference between agile and hybrid? And is like, I think as somebody said that the new workspace is all about flexibility. So the new workspace needs to be more agile than what it was before. But I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
So I would like to put it this way, it's a journey. It's a journey of all the businesses, the requirements that we come up with. It's a journey for designers to understand that requirement and take through this journey along the employees, along with the businesses, the productivity of it. Everything is inclusive of this journey. So when you when before the pandemic, people were talking about agile working, it was to give more freedom to pick and choose the settings they wanted at work. And according to the resources, they need to call upon, this might change day in, day out, even hour by hour. For instance, there might be a group collaboration session in a soft seated breakout area in the morning, and then in a period of quiet individual work in focus booth during the afternoon. In order to facilitate this successfully, office design was considered to be highly functional and adaptable, and it could be achieved by having things like furniture on wheels, like reconfigurable furniture, and integration of diverse technology, which was also being cultivated as a plug and play kind of environment. Now, when we come towards the journey from agile to hybrid, it's extension of agile working, wherein it refers to more dynamic use of physical office space. Hybrid working goes beyond that, was also incorporating remote working locations, whether it's a home office, co-working space, or a local cafe. It's about offering workers as much choice and control around where and how they work as possible in order to optimize both their performance and well-being. This includes thinking in more contemporary way about how to support different modes of work, such as concentration and collaboration simultaneously. When it comes to hybrid working and workspace design, it's really all about doing everything you can make your office a destination of choice. As employees become more autonomous around where they are on a day-to-day basis, it's vital that the workplace also professional and personal appeal. The office needs to be somewhere where they want to be and to come from and feel supported, fulfilled, inspired, engaged, and have access to all the resources they need, such as sophisticated video conferencing technology that will enable them to communicate effectively in both remote and residential kind of setups. Now, moving from this journey, there's also something that we practice, which is blended working.
Now you're using another word now, blended.
Yes, yes. So in a nutshell, it's an extension to the hybrid working. So the more blended it is, to understand, now it's people first kind of perspective that we follow by design. It was always thought about, but it's being focused now. Herein we have inclusive working, herein we have neurodiversity that we look into very seriously now. And a lot of businesses have given thought to this. We also focus on to the mental health. It's flexible, it's agile, yet it's blended for everyone to come at a place wherein the understanding is common of being productive in the preferred ways. It's a higher level of...
While I heard you, I think one of the key thing in a hybrid is, a lot of the IT guys, they are still having an occupancy of 50% attendance, right? Today also, across most of the IT services companies. So when your workforce is not coming 100% or 90% to your office, how do you design your office to take care of that change in the way we are working? So whatever as a designer you need to do to accommodate that change is, to me, is hybrid workplace. It can be there's no dedicated workstation today. And the reason is because nobody is coming every day to the office. So they can come and choose whichever workstation and start working from there. So let's go to Fancy. I think I really want her to talk to this flex office, the co-working, which has taken our country by.
I'm sorry, can you all hear Arnab?
No, I'm not able to hear.
Okay, I guess I'll just kind of talk through this. He may be having an issue with his network. Okay, I think I'll just start. So basically, the question he was asking was about flex offices, right? Flex offices literally, I think he's trying to come in a bit.
I think you can continue in the meantime.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right.
He's logging in again.
Done. All right. Arnab, you were asking the question about flex offices just now. So I think you can see you there.
Can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you.
I can't see. The power went off actually. 1 second. Yeah, now I can see. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. I think that's the Doordarshan style. But Fancy, we're talking about flex office.
Yeah.
You can just run through it, how it got triggered, how it started, and then what's really making it so popular, and how is it actually influencing across the corporate office workspace design. And please talk about the good thing and the bad thing of what we are seeing today.
So I think the whole idea or the idea behind flex offices started obviously because of the pandemic. It became such a big deal. And the fact that all of these co-working spaces were kind of made very popular when WeWork started it as a concept so many years back. And really,
one of the founder was a designer, as you know.
One of the founders. There are, of course, many others now with co-works, and I don't want to go into the names, but I just said that because everybody kind of recognizes that that's the one that really made it very popular across, right?
One good example where design made the concept so popular.
Correct. And also that is where, when you asked me about that word that I was using, choice, right? That was where it all became hugely popular. You know, you could go pick spaces. You didn't have to go and sit in one of those workstations. You could go pick one of the square offices. You could go sit in a collaboration space. You could even go and sit in a cafeteria. It didn't matter where you were, right? So that is flexibility for you. And it became extremely popular because post-pandemic, a lot of companies were not totally sure about the way business was going to go. So because of the fact that there was just no way of trying to figure out what the headcount was, right? These became a lot more popular, and also there's a lot of rethink. You know, you were talking about Agile. Agile was something that, you know, it had many different terminologies, from open office to modern office. And then nobody really understood what it was, because sometimes you could walk into an open or a modern or an Agile and you see your workstations, and then you see like meeting rooms.
I think the origin was a management concept of, a software project management philosophy.
It's all about fitting people in. And so now what is happening is you're like focusing a little bit more on the user, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, they need the choice. Let's try and do something a little bit different with the space. Right? And what are the, and then WeWork, like, I'm not going to say WeWork, but the co-working made it extremely popular. So people were coming in and they started experiencing the space, and it worked. And also you have that flexibility of picking a smaller office or a bigger office. You know, you didn't have to like kind of bother too much about your headcount at that point of time. That's the reason why it's extremely popular. But I think where you were asking about the negative aspects of it could be the fact that you're not able to totally engage with your own company, because you're kind of picking up, it's like smaller numbers, and you're picking offices all across, it's distributed all across the country. So the engagement part of it comes down to some extent. I think that is one of it that I can think of. Right. And the other thing, of course, is like, you know, it's like the culture of the office is not kind of watered down to the employees, because now you're like talking across many different businesses under the same roof. And also, of course, not to mention like your people leaving, all sorts of things happen there. So these are probably one of the negative aspects, but the positive of it is the fact that you don't have to worry too much about how to fit in those numbers. You can just take a smaller flex office. You have a choice of work, right? And then you engage with different kinds of people from different businesses. So the engagement part of it was good. Okay, so I think these are some of the positives.
Yeah, I think you have highlighted all the design wise or the space wise positives. Sanober obviously knows the economically why a lot of corporates are looking at co-working space. It makes sense to them as on today. So let me go to Gagandeep, and I just want you to look at if you look at the history of office space design, and you'll see that the design has changed as we have changed as society, but the speed of change has not been very fast. If you look at our cubicle and grid ceiling office, it was there for quite a long time. We were all used to that. That's the office. That's what we used to think is an office space. But today, if you look at the last 5 years, the way office has changed as a space, as an ambience, as a place where people are going to work, the speed at which it has changed is very, very fast. And I would like you to share your thoughts. Why do you feel that the speed of the change has happened so fast, and why everybody is in a rush to have a new office which is completely different from their old office? There's no midway. It's like if you look at a JPMC office, what it was, and the new office that he's doing, it's like a other side of the spectrum. So if you can reflect on that.
Hi, yes. So the pace of change, it has been phenomenal. I would attribute that to a lot of technological advancement and the competitiveness that is there in the businesses as of today. Nobody can be left behind. So everybody is, working day in and day out to make sure that their team is, the well-being of their team is considered. The technology is imbibed in the daily activities. The spaces are designed increasingly to make sure that the workforce is inspired to come to it. So we are no longer looking at old styled, offices, boring offices. People, the workforce, they have also got a lot of choice. So if they don't like your workspace, they are more than happy to switch to someone else. So to keep that engagement also in, practice, we need to be very, very advanced in our office design workspaces. Also, the workforce is very much exposed. Exposure is very high. The virtual collaborations require a very different setup than what we used to have. So all of that keeping in mind, it is, the pace has been tremendously faster than what it had been in the last, before the last 5 years. The pandemic hit us, it made us think our physical spaces did not matter. Where we are, how we are, as long as we are connected, our digital tools are supporting us. So as architects, as interior designers, we have also made sure that we design keeping the values in mind and also keeping the team well-being at the core of everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Gagandeep. Sanober, for you, the question is it took a little time for the employers to kind of understand this change happening after the pandemic. There were a lot of, I would say, discussion, what's the next step, what to do now. And now I think they have kind of decided on the strategy, and a lot of workplace transformation is happening. So what has changed in the employer mind space? What really changed? And what are the priorities before the pandemic, and what is the priority today, especially for the employer perspective?
Yeah, honestly, parameters for office space selection has evolved over years now. You know, I mean, you talk of 1950s and 60s where we had a very production-driven economy, where office designs were very rigid, complex, dense, authoritarian. You know, where low to mid management had no flexibility, collaboration. There was just no movement on the floor. To the early 90s, where we saw an IT boom, followed by FDI opening in India. There was an influx of MNCs where CRE heads started to, you know, give more emphasis on quality of buildings with glass facades, larger floor plate efficiencies, and such things attributed to a shift in design where you had then cubicles come in. Cubicles paved way to more open space or open desks, and then that became a combo of open desks and collaborative spaces. But what happened when COVID-19 really hit us was it forced us to redefine our normal, you know, and the new normal demanded optimization of your current real estate portfolio. That was what every CRE head within organization was thinking about. How do you optimize my current space? How do I make the most of it? And very honestly, that is when they started. They were also challenged by the whole idea of getting employees back into these vacant offices post COVID.
They tried their best. Tried their best to bring them back, but I don't think they succeeded 100% on that.
Yeah, it's still happening. You know, that's where they are. There's a lot of jigging around of office spaces. So that's where they're bringing in a combination of hospitality and collaboration alongside optimization. And there's we're dealing with a Gen Z's generation here. So it is all about funky designs and how do you entice them into coming into work every day. So it's no more about just employee productivity. It's all about employee health, employee well-being. So there has been a paradigm shift in terms of what one would attribute to the selection criteria, and also with ESG becoming a mandatory compliance for most of the corporates now. There is a lot of emphasis on office spaces, providing for right to people with disabilities. You have to provide for mother rooms, meditation rooms, prayer rooms. It just shows that your employer is committed to providing you that diversity and inclusion. So I believe there has been, it's just not about how efficient a floor is or whether a building is a LEED certified building. It's even more than that. There is a lot of softer aspects now to selection criteria for a CRE head.
But I think then to summarize, as employees recalibrate their priorities after the pandemic, I think that actually kind of indirectly pushed the employers also to recalibrate.
Absolutely.
What they need to do now to retain talent or bring back people back to the office, right? And they need to do it for their business reason also. But pandemic actually has been a big game changer for, it has totally changed the way we work today.
It has indeed. Yeah.
So let me come to Dr. Ponni that I think we are talking about office space and interior office layouts, but I would like to know from you that how is it affecting the design of the build? Like when you talk about an IT campus or a commercial building, is building design changing? Or is it still following the same principles or the thought process what it was before the pandemic? Are the designers, architects now rethinking when they're designing a commercial office buildings?
Absolutely. I think there's been a sea change as to how the built form has gone through changes post-pandemic. And I'm going to take the example of the Telangana State Secretariat. Even though that is a government building, I was pleasantly surprised to note that I worked very closely with the Chief Minister of Telangana. There were two things that he insisted on. One is sustainability. the built form must provide sustainability, more natural ventilation, natural day lighting, large corridor spaces, more square footage for each worker, more gender equity. I was very, very pleasant to see that there's so much of gender equity that the Chief Minister spoke about, to have secular spaces for religious worship. So when you take all of these factors into consideration, the built form has changed. You'll need to have long span spaces because now the workspace has become more flexible. Your cellular workspaces have changed even in government buildings. That's another pleasant aspect that I found. So in Telangana, in Hyderabad, what I found is there's a lot of dynamic change that has happened in both private office spaces and in government office spaces. So the building that we designed for the Telangana State Secretariat had long span spaces, wider corridors, more facilities for women, creches for working mothers, lunchrooms more expansive, more catered towards women, because as you know, the demographics of India has changed. Now it is 50% men and 50% women. So the Chief Minister was looking at making it more women friendly, strangely. And so we had very interesting pastel colors, high ceilings. The business of having 10 feet ceiling is gone. Now it's all 12 feet, even in government offices. So if you ask me about the built form, yes, it's gone through a sea change. It has to accommodate sustainable principles. As you know, sustainable principles are not just, a business of natural light, ventilation, etc. It's also choice of materials. All the materials
I understood, but what you just said, it reminded me that nowadays chief ministers are not much different between a chief minister and a CEO of a corporate entity, right?
Absolutely.
The design brief that he's giving you is
Absolutely.
also connected to the message and whatever communication he wants to do to his electorate or whatever it is. So
Absolutely.
it's and I think it's happening across states. Most of the new government public institutions have a very clear brief that what they want to achieve through that, whether it's an airport or a secretariat or any public institution.
Absolutely.
So I think we are running short of time. I would request all of you to be a little brief for the second round so that we have some time to take some questions. I will start the second round. I will with Dr. Ananya is about, as project manager, we always balance cost and time and quality. So my question to you is a new workspace, the transform workspace, does it cost more to build them? Like leaving aside the material, I'm not talking about the cement and steel escalation, but is it costlier to build a new transformed office? And is cost, is creativity and cost in an inverse proportion, or a creativity can be cost agnostic? Like you can still create a nice new transform workspace at whatever budget the client gives you. You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting question. Cost is always the biggest parameter for at least, from the asset owning person's perspective.
The person who is investing.
Yes, from an investment point of view,
yeah,
for sure. I would say, yes, the cost has gone up, and not just small, it has gone up by huge numbers. Because of course, the escalation, the procurement rates is definitely a parameter, meaning it's like the similar space is costing more, but also because of the aspirations now, and also about when you talk of A-grade buildings, meaning there are multiple kind of office spaces, right? So if we are talking specifically of A-grade buildings which have been designed for the larger, the global communities, and, which have standards of design and so on and so forth, is definitely more expensive. Sustainability is another thing. A lot of buildings, even if they are owning an old building, are refitting for it to become green, refitting it to say a platinum standard. So cost is definitely gone up. At the same time, the leasing cost also is proportionately, obviously, increasing. And that is where you have to be a little bit more careful in making spaces where all kinds will fit. But at the same time, if it's a single owned building, like let's say it's a Google headquarter, it's a totally different format. But if you're looking at building which has to be leased and subleased in various different things, cost is extremely important. What is important for us is to see that employees are the main center of focus for most of the office owners. So they are wanting those really new age, smarter offices, but at the same time, they're extremely stingy about the spend. So creative, yes, I would say you can still hit a good design, get a good design out within the cost. If you are aware of materials and materials that are available, I think the knowledge and experience of the designer also counts. How they can use simpler materials, or they can use cheaper materials in a more creative form. Insulation, for example, is another big thing. And so you could look at insulation in various different ways. So, small stuff like this, I think, just to make my comment shorter, people can design within cost. And cost will always be a very big parameter, whether be it in workspace or any other.
Yeah, I think it's obvious the construction cost has gone up.
Yeah.
I think the designers and the project management team might be a little reluctant to, put the effort to find a way to still design a good office within the cost, because their fees have not gone up. So that's another problem that we are facing. Everything else has gone up except the fee remains the same because of various reasons. Let's not get into that.
Something small, Arnab, I'll just like to say, if you're doing a green building, you can't procure items from very, very far off. You might getting a cheaper item in China.
But you would be surprised. You would be surprised because I interact with a lot of clients. So they want everything. It's like, if you look at a triangle, the 3 points of a triangle is cost, time, and quality. So they want all the three things. So sometimes it's difficult to achieve all the thing if you're not giving way to 1 point of the triangle. Let's go to Erna now, and I would like you to change your hat, and for some few minutes you think you are the client, you are the new age disruptor, startup founder, and you want to build a 2 lakh square feet of office space because of a Series B funding that you've got. So what would you really give a brief to your designer? What boxes would you like him to tick to design your space today?
Yeah, to actually start with what was being discussed before, to add in as a perspective from the client side, where I have worked with clients who have been like in their late 20s, who are the decision makers, to clients who are into their 60s and 70s as well. One thing I have learned throughout is like quality is long remembered when the price is forgotten. So whatever as a designer we do leaves an impression for a very long time. First of all, I would see if I am a business owner who is quite young and very aspirant and has a certain budget in terms of having a hybrid or a collaborative spaces, the spaces of now and future. First of all, I would want to understand, the requirement very well, and requirement not like somebody on the top decides what the requirement is today. Every employee has the chance to speak about the requirement that they need for an environment where they are more productive. So finding the why is very, very important in terms of putting up the brief right. Also, the critical requirements, compartmentalizing after analysis and and having a roadmap which is achievable is very, very important, because there are too many things, what to focus on, what to not. As a designer, I would say that people, place, purpose and posture are very, very important. People first is the has always been a focus, yet in the company culture, how it is being built and how the trust factor comes into play for every employee to believe in the business is very, very important. The look and feel is important. Also, to bring in the brand in the right way transforming, the spaces, or having that kind of vision is very, very important. The client believing in the vision of the designer is very important. And playing a right mix of technology and design, yet being sustainable, as a lot of awareness has been put up during the pandemic and even after that, where people have invested time, money, and space into knowing well-being in deep. So wellness certifications or LEED certifications, such kind of practices were there before, but now they are being taken very, very seriously. So I would tick in all these boxes, put in together, if I were the client of today.
Thank you. I think to summarize, the new startup, see, when he's making his office space, it's a tool for him to send a message to the world that this is my mind space. This is what the way I would like to build my organization. So he is very clear about what he wants in this workspace. It is his vision which is more important sometimes than the designer's vision. So the designer has to kind of align to his vision and understand his vision and work accordingly.
Yeah, rather even help to build that culture in the spaces that we design. In terms of sometimes you have a vision that has to transcend to every space in
But he's very passionate. He's involved in the design day in, day out. I think the startup founder spends more time with the designer than the earlier CEOs of companies.
Agreed. And I truly believe that these days the youngsters who are starting up the businesses, they are following processes that they truly believe in. It's no more like a brief is taken, a brief is put up and given to somebody to design.
So the only problem is they kind of question everything.
Yes.
So they don't like any luggage or baggage in the mind of like if you say, no, this is not the way to do this, they are going to ask you why I can't do it like this. So it takes some time to agree on the right decision making. But let's go to Fancy and talk about ESG. That's the most common topic across all webinars and panel discussion. So what I understand, unlike just a sustainability initiatives of company, ESG is something which in the future, most of the corporates, public listed companies needs to actually publish a policy and use certain standards to monitor and using a certain metric. So it is going to be very soon a mandatory thing for most of the corporates like CSR. So as this happens, as we go through this journey, how do you think it will affect the way designers look at designing buildings or workspaces? Will the designer now, I'm not talking about only the aware designer who understand this and always wanted to do this, and now there is a forum to go ahead and do it along with your client, but I'm talking about across the entire designer community, like whether starting from the education that comes with the designer. I think, how does it affect the design community as ESG becomes mandatory?
Yeah, so I mean, you just kind of go back a little bit, right? Where ESG is concerned, and it was if you had worked with companies that were very aware, right? Like corporate companies or multinational companies, it's been done for almost the past 10 to 15 years. Arnab, you're yourself like associated with many of those parts, right? And from the word go, that's just the way to do it, and it was easy enough to do it. But to answer your questions on designers and the way, what is it that they need to do? Number one is awareness of things like universal design guidelines. Universal design guidelines is not even something that's commonplace right now in any of our languages, right? When you talk about universal design guidelines, and then you kind of split that into the 6, 7, 8 different aspects, you talk about body fit, till today, we're sitting and arguing with clients who come and talk. It's difficult to argue with clients as well, who come and say, why do you want to give 1.2 meter, 6 to 7 feet wide corridors? You just need 4 feet. That's all you need. And then you'll break it down and add a lot more workstations. Because this is how the fight starts from that point onwards. So as designers, our fight is to kind of sit back and say, hey, listen, okay, you need to be following these guidelines. There are these harmonized guidelines, which is a takeoff from the Universal Design Guidelines and a takeoff from the ADA, or the American Disabilities Act, which was there for many years. The fact that universal design came into place was the fact that ADA was always addressing a separate little ramp when you enter, or a separate something. Universal is about making sure it's all equitable for everyone. Anything and everything and every space you enter is an equitable space. And then even the way you design your workplaces, you need to design for neurodiverse workforces. Somebody just mentioned that. These are all the things that is just so necessary, and it's becoming a lot more necessary because people are a lot more aware of, the fact that you need to design for this. And it's not only...
Fancy, just to, I think sometimes I feel, everybody talks about lead rating, gold, platinum, and but what I've always seen when a client comes and put this desire that I would like my building to have this rating, the entire design team then start working towards it. Consultants are hired and all that thing. But as you said, there's no real standard. Even an NBC today, ideally, all of us should be designing any building with a LEED gold standard at least, right? And that doesn't happen all the time nowadays. So that's what I feel is a lack. I don't know whether it will change or NBC will get updated or whatever it is. Like every student who comes out of the college should know that if I have to design a building, I should do it, tick these boxes and then design it. You can be creative in your massing and elevation and all that thing, but you cannot play with these things. So that's the wish list.
I think, that's where obviously at the education level and schools and colleges, we need to start teaching. It has to be a lot more with application.
I hope ESG is a subject in college now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to start from that. But I'm telling you, Arnab, the fight is also the fact that when you're talking to your clients or the end users, the big fight there is on the need for some of these norms. I mean, you remember those days when we were talking about 60 to 70 square feet per person, and that was just criminal in a workplace, right? And now, at least thankfully, we've just kind of gone back and said, 120.
That is because thankfully we've got linear workstations now. But anyway, let's go to Gagandeep. I think we'll run out of time shortly. I would like you to discuss, since we're discussing ESG and energy efficiency, as we all know, air conditioning is the elephant in any building. It's it's actually one of the biggest culprit, the biggest energy guzzler. And so when we talk about building design or office design, how does architects actually can help to reduce the air conditioning load of a building? Like, are you guys really thinking while designing a building, or what is the process today? Like, is the AC load in your mind space when you're designing a building?
Well, it's not the primary concern, or it's not the primary design strategy when we are designing a workspace. But yes, a lot of architectural strategies can be implemented in design by means of which we can reduce the dependency of on air conditioning in any workspace. At the same time, we have to agree that it is a reality of today. We cannot have comfortable spaces without air conditioning because, it's criminal outside, the kind of temperatures that we are looking at in Delhi itself. We need to provide comfortable workspaces. So air conditioning is a very, very important aspect for comfort. How we can achieve a less energy guzzling system is we can invest in a high energy efficient HVAC system in any office. We can do open planning so that we have less number of machines that we are dependent on rather than engaging in more number of machines in any office. Plus, we can invest in VRV systems which optimize the load and manage it as and when the workspace, the heat load is less, they optimize it on their own. Automation plays a lot of important role in this by having zonal temperature controls and then automatically managing the load system of the air conditioning system so that nobody has to manually go and adjust it because that usually does not happen all the way. And wastages need to be checked. So we will definitely suggest our clients to invest in, again, a very high energy efficient HVAC system. Plus, local design strategies are implemented. For example, we need to give water bodies in workspaces so that that automatically reduces the heat load on that area. We can oscillate between treated fresh air systems integrated in our work design strategies so that the spaces don't require that load to be put on the air conditioning. So there are lots of strategies. Of course, we can have shading devices on our system so that we do not bring in too much of sunlight into a workspace, because windows, of course, we do require windows for a more bright space. So there are strategies which we can implement, but we cannot let go of air conditioning in any way.
No, I understand that we can't let go of air conditioning, but I was, as an architect, we know the connection between the load, heat load inside a building with our material or the facade that you're designing or the choice of material that you're doing for the building. Sometimes, the glass and ACP facade is more attractive to the client, so we just tend to go with that flow. But I think the time has come for all of us to kind of make the client aware that we can do this building, it will look nice and shiny and all that thing, but it has its other implications which you need to be aware of and maybe take a call. What is a building that you really want? And whether then the ESG comes in, and all that factors might make him now think twice before going with a glass and ACP building. So let me go to Sanober now, and I just want you to give a summary of the perspective of the office space consumption. It's just for everybody to get a context that what was the consumption last year compared to 2019, and what you are anticipating for this year, and is it going up, is it going down, and what's the reason behind that?
Sure, and I'm being conscious of time as well, so I'll keep it as short and crisp as I can. Yeah. But to give in full perspective, in 2019, which was the year just before COVID, we saw an office space consumption of 57.72 million square feet in whole of India. When we were hit by COVID, that fell by 45%, and in 2021, that barely we did approx. There was a 15% dip to the previous year. Coming to your question, the precise question that you asked, in 2022, that saw a revival of 48% of office consumption. Now, what is 2023 looking like? Very honestly, H1 stats say that we'll be about 11% lower than last year. However, and these are attributable to some aspects of emergence of new variants of COVID towards the end of 2022, the long dragging Eastern Europe war, the bank crisis in the US. However, the Indian economy has been very resilient to these factors. We've seen that in H1. Yes, there is lesser consumption by MNCs, but the Indian homegrown companies have contributed to most office stock consumption in H1 of this year, and we see that growing towards the end of the year as well.
Thank you, Sanober. I think the companies who have a larger footprint in India, they definitely are not looking for a new set of leasable space because of the occupancy thing. Now, let me come to my last question of this session. I have saved the best question for Dr. Ponni, that it's something which I would like to hear her thoughts also. When we talk about a new workspace, it's not really isolated in its existence. It's a part of the built environment which affects various aspects of urbanization. The employee moves daily between his residential space to his workspace, gets affected by traffic, pollution, inflation on a daily basis, right? That's what we have realized. I think the pandemic allowed us to take a step behind and understand what the kind of life that we were leading. And now my question is there a way to design as architects? Can you really design building which can help to reduce traffic or reduce pollution in a city? Like, is it just a wish list, or is it possible? Especially when you're designing on a large scale format, right? A IT campus or a 1,000-bedded hospital or a large hotel? How do you look into that? Or if we are not really relevant, we cannot change the way the city is growing?
See, I think it's a very good question, but it's also a very complex question because it relates to, individual building architecture and urban design, if you really ask me. So in terms of reducing the commute, obviously work from home is a great option because, you actually lessen the pollution by itself, and, it decrease the energy consumptions in office buildings. That being said, not every office typology can actually encourage work from home. But as much as possible, that could be done, and that will bring down the stress of commuting. The second thing is an urban design aspect, and that's something I'd like to talk about. Smart cities, the more of technology that you bring in, you can actually reduce the carbon footprint. The third option is actually to bring in integrated townships, where the concept of work, live, work, play. The minute you have these huge pods of integrated townships where you can live in the same huge campus, work, and also have leisure activities along with schools, hospitals, what have you. But these can be self-contained pods. So that way you automatically reduce the kind of pollution that comes in. And this is something that we've been talking to a lot of urban designers. I'm an urban designer myself, and I keep saying that integrated townships is a very good option to reduce pollution and give a more healthier style of lifestyle. And I've been urging builders to look into it more carefully, because in India, integrated township does not bring in office blocks, which they should bring in actually, and government should give them tax credits for doing so. And also, I'm going to touch upon an important point because I'm also an academician. I keep telling my students that you'll have to tick off the boxes in NBC, LEED certification. I mean, you do it at the college school level, then you're going to have these, professionals who come out already prepared. You don't have to sit and fight with politicians. The politicians themselves know that this is a problem. So I think it's a very a problem that you'll have to attack on the macro level.
Agreed. I stay in Bangalore, so I've become a pessimist, but yeah, but I wish our city would be, much better than what it is now. But I would like to thank everyone. I think we had a very, very interesting conversation, which touched upon a lot of important issues, I think, which we should all be conscious of and try our best to address them as we work with our clients. I think if Sapna, if you have anything from the audience side, if you can.
Yes, we have quite a few questions, and in fact, I think Arnab, you touched upon all aspects of workspaces, that how they are changing and how we are maybe looking forward to. One interesting question that has come is about AI and metaverse. We are talking about AI, chat GPT replacing people or jobs, metaverse, where people now you don't need offices, you have a 3D environment where you can kind of, interact with your colleagues. So this question comes for you, Arnab, that how is this going to change the future of work and then the workspaces?
I think all these technologies will definitely affect the way we work. But when it comes to the workspace, I think whether you're working from your house or working from a Starbucks or working at your office, each space has its own ambience and influence on the way you work, right? So you work differently in different space. Space affects the way you work. So office will have its own need and purpose. So somebody was saying that office is becoming a different ambience. So office is a new club today. You should, we used to come to our residence to recharge ourselves. Now people go to office to recharge themselves. That I should go to the office, interact with my colleagues, get some, interesting ideas, which will excite me, and I come back home and work on.
You need a wow factor now in the office.
Yeah. But only problem with while trying to create this wow factor, sometimes that people are going slightly over the top, right? They're going berserk on what they need in an office. So everything is going a little sometimes off the thing. So you need the client and the designer to balance it out also, that you need to make sure that your design is still conscious and responsible to the people that you're catering to, right? So that sense of responsibility needs to remain. Climate change is just around the corner, and we obviously need to work to make sure that we are putting our bit to.
Right. So you are not seeing metaverse replacing workspaces in the near
No, I don't think meta world will replace workspace, but I would say the AI will kind of help us to design a layout faster than a human brain. So I think the time that design can get commodified also. Thanks to AI.
Next question is on technology and design. Arnab, you can decide who should take that question. Does design shapes technology or technology influences design?
I think that's an obvious answer, but I think Fancy or Dr. Ananya, if you can take that question.
Is it design which is shaping the technology for the workspace, or technology is influencing design?
Ananya, you're going to take that?
Yeah.
I think it's not actually an obvious question, Arnab. I think
obvious answer. I said.
Obvious answer. Sorry. What I'm saying is that there's a huge influx of technology in design. Everybody's now looking at the kind of advanced formats for designing, the 3-dimensional and, all that kind of stuff is already there. So I would say it just enables rather than what comes first. So I think technology is 100% enabling design in multiple ways. And also you could, imagine things better. And also you could present things better to your clients, they can visualize it better. So visualization, I think, has gone up multiple forms. Like, earlier you would have an idea, but you couldn't present it in a way. Now you could go in, you could look at the way the whole structure is made. You could go inside and look at multiple dimensions of
AR, VR, 3D modeling.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's an enabler both for designers as well as users.
Okay, all right. I think that's fantastic. We have many questions, but our next set of speakers are already in. But very interesting, very informative discussion. I think we have touched upon some of the trends that we are going to see. Yeah, Erna, you wanted to add something
here, but I would like to add one thing. AI might help, like Arnab said, that it might help us to multiple options of layouts and things like that. But the experience that a designer can create for the brand or the business that a company wants to run, giving that experience and personalized experience is not going to be something captured by technology, and definitely our minds will help out there.
Yeah, I think there is still some time before robots replace humans.
And Sapna, you should not forget that in order to get the AI, there will be some people working behind it.
Absolutely.
So you need workspace for the guys who are actually working on AI.
Okay,
absolutely.
Fantastic. I think that was one very positive sentiment for all of us here. So thank you so much to all our speakers. Arnab, fantastically moderated session. Thank you so much. And the speakers, Dr. Ananya, Gagandeep, Erna, Dr. Ponni, Fancy, for being here with us and joining this session and sharing your views. Thank you so much for this interesting and very informative session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.